Hey guys, and actually welcome to a new video, and this one's all about why Nevis LLC still beat Wyoming for privacy. And again, if you haven't actually, if this is your first time you've been seeing me on YouTube, welcome to 4-Point Solutions. I'm Will, actually one of the co-founders of 4-Point Solutions. So we essentially help high net worth individuals, people looking to grow, to relocate their business themselves, and obviously also look at some fintech or private banking solutions as well. So let's actually get to it and focus on why, there's a huge difference between Nevis and Wyoming, both very popular solutions. We see a lot of content online, a lot of blogs out there, a lot of law firms as well promoting both sides. But let's actually have a look at the differences between them, right? So firstly, obviously one's onshore, one's offshore, Nevis being based in the Caribbean. And Wyoming LLC obviously essentially is a US state onshore. As I've said before, very popular products that we do see entrepreneurs using nowadays. Now, when we look at the UBO privacy on a comparative basis, okay, over in Nevis, there's no public registry, meaning it's extremely high. As over in Wyoming, it's a little bit medium, there's no UBO disclosure, but the registered agent and court orders can be exposed XYZ. In terms of the legal protection in Nevis, it's exceptional. We're going to go into why this is just shortly in this video. But when we compare this in Wyoming, it's strong but subject to US federal courts, right? Now, reporting requirements obviously in Nevis are very minimal, as over in Wyoming, I'd say it's actually increasing, especially due to the CTA that was released over in 2024 from the US side of governments. Now, banks are going to face a little bit more difficulty with the Nevis. It still works with fintech solutions in London, Luxembourg, Belgium, as they do love to do business in those areas of the world with overseas entities. But again, obviously the Wyoming company is going to win on the banking front because it is a slightly more, a much less lower risk jurisdiction. Asset protection is superior in Nevis. We're going to come into that shortly. The same with the actual legal protection of why Nevis is so good. But again, it's still good over in the US, but it's a lot weaker than Nevis, much weaker, So again, what's very important with the Nevis company is, there's IRS and FATCA reporting, right, which is required for the Wyoming LLC. But regarding the Nevis company, if none of the income has been sourced from the US, there's no need to be reporting that, right? So it depends on your local residence, of course, and those local laws, but I'm on about the IRS and FATCA reporting requirements right here. And it's a no from Nevis as long as there's non-US sourced income. So let's actually have a look at the real advantage here, and that is Nevis regarding privacy. Okay, so there's no public registry of owners or managers. Only the registered agent knows the owner, and they're legally barred from disclosing without a court order from Nevis itself. Nevis doesn't recognize foreign court judgments, and again, they must sue in Nevis courts, and even in litigation, the claimant must post a bond of $100,000 just to start the proceedings in Nevis. I mean, just let that pause and marinate right there. The claimant must post a bond of $100,000 to even start a court proceeding, which is just, in terms of asset protection, is fantastic. And there's no obligation to disclose the UBO to public and even most regulators. As Wyoming, while it does not require a UBO disclosure on the public record, the registered agent still knows the owner under the Corporate Transparency Act as well, which is the new one that's basically come into play last year, the CTA over in 2024. Most LLCs must file the beneficial owner information report with the FinCEN, including US citizens and foreign UBOs as well. I've had to do this myself. I also own a Wyoming LLC. 2, law enforcement, domestic or foreign, can request info via FinCEN or the courts. Court orders forced disclosure, and being in the US means you're within reach of the US federal subpoenas, essentially. Now, when we actually go into, just how I mentioned earlier, we're going to come into why it's so important, right? And in terms of the asset protection, now Nevis LLC offer charging order protection as well as the exclusive remedy for creditors. So you know, plaintiffs cannot seize ownership or control of LLC, only potential distributions, and only after winning a Nevis court case. So fraudulent claims are very hard to prove, as Nevis courts require higher standards of proof. You know, when we compare this to Wyoming, you can see the great differences right now. It's truly marvelous, Jim. So, and again, if you basically can't go after personal assets through a company and vice versa while being in Nevis. As when we look at kind of Wyoming, just a quick thought about it, changing order protection exists, but it's not exclusive. Courts may allow the foreclosure and other remedies in certain cases, and US judges have discretion to allow other actions in federal cases as well. And some of the US courts have allowed reverse bails, piercing, or seize control in fraud or tax cases, right? So that's not great at all. So currently Nevis is completely winning. The only extra benefit of being in the US is that slightly more trusted region. Maybe you're serving a US market base, and it's nice to actually have a local US domestic company, especially with those US banks as well. Trying to open up a US bank account with a Nevis company may be a little bit challenging. Obviously, we can help you here at 4 Point Solutions if you were interested in doing that. I probably wouldn't recommend a US bank account, to be honest. You know, there's many greater bank accounts. You can be banking in Switzerland, Liechtenstein. If you have those funds and you can meet those requirements, and obviously that is something we can obviously try to help you do. But obviously, feel free to book a meeting with me below, or drop me an email, will.hodgson@4pointsolutions.com. And again, just to mention once more, 4 Point Solutions is a premium consultancy service where we essentially help entrepreneurs through the international jurisdictions. Now, tax treatment, again in Nevis, as you can imagine, is nil, complete tax neutral, right? If it's structured property and not doing business in Nevis or the US, there is no reporting obligations. So it's very nice for maybe a European citizen who's doing business over in Europe, who's living in somewhere like Guernsey, for example, to actually use a Nevis LLC as even a holding company or even as an operational company. Now, usually we see this paired with, when we work with clients, they also like to be interested in the Nevis Trust structure as well. And the Nevis Trust, to set up a Nevis Trust, you also need the Nevis LLC, typically, for compliance reasons. Now, when we look at tax treatment over in using a Wyoming company, yes, it can be useful for, as I've kind of mentioned in other videos, for a SaaS startup, for example, or for simple US operations, whether you want to be onboarding with Stripe. But I think we can pair it with better LLCs or better limited companies such as UK or Ireland, which really pair great with Nevis as well. If you do need those payment processors and you need those payment merchants to process those orders, maybe an e-commerce site or a SaaS site, right? That could be quite useful right there. And obviously, Wyoming's always going to win because banks are more willing to be onboarding companies from Wyoming rather than Nevis, right? When we look at the actual tax treatment, we've got, filings after filings, the 5472, I believe, the FDAP and the ECI classifications, withholding taxes. US tax treaties do not protect you if the UBO is offshore and it's not kind of structured properly. And again, it's just, it's a pass-through taxation by default over in Wyoming, but still under the IRS jurisdiction. So as I've got to mention the banking as well, I think you've clearly understood the banking. And again, if you did actually have any additional questions about the banking, feel free to find me over an email or book a meeting with me below. But typically we can see a Cook Islands Trust paired with a Nevis LLC, and obviously bank accounts and investment portfolios. The asset protection here is completely wins over Wyoming every single day of the week. We also see it for crypto holdings, for global business, actual holdings. Maybe the Nevis LLC can own shares of operations such as Ireland, UAE, Canadian companies, right? And maybe on the crypto front, it can obviously hold wallets and exchanges like Kraken, Swissborg, Bitfinex maybe. And, it can also be paired with a nominee director and nominee shareholder as well, just to increase that asset protection and privacy to be ultimate, right? So other than that one, guys, I think it's, my thoughts have been put out there, and hopefully you've got understood that they're very different, but we do see people compare them on a comparative basis a lot, and it's very good to know the benefits of being in each one. So other than that, guys, I'll leave you to it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.